Hello again. A European Union financial commitment will most likely support Rwanda's military deployment in Mozambique. That's according to Herve Blejean, Director General of the EU military staff. He says that EU Foreign Affairs Chief Josep Borrell is determined to respond positively to such an initiative. Well, let's analyze this now. I'm joined by journalist and researcher with the International Institute for Security Studies, Borges Nhamirre. Borges, good afternoon. Thank you very much for your time. When the Rwandans were deployed first in northern Mozambique, I remember this very well. There were questions being asked of Paul Kagame, who is funding the Rwandans, and his response was that Rwanda was funding its own presence. And many people were skeptical, but it looks like he might have been telling the truth because now they want the EU to fund them.
Yes, good afternoon. That's true. Everyone raised a question on where the money comes from to fund such a big mission. We know that Rwanda alone has about 2,000 personnel in Cabo Delgado. So that is a huge mission and they require too much funding. So it makes sense that everyone was asking, where does the money come from? And Rwanda keeps saying, okay, we are funding with our own funds, but we know the context of African country economy, no country can afford such a mission. So it was clear that soon or later someone would come in support to Rwanda for this mission. And this is taking so long time, more than the 3 months that was initially predicted.
Yeah, the conflict is certainly not going to last for 3 months. Many analysts, like yourselves as a researcher, have told us here on eNCA the same thing. Now, just before I carry on the EU aspect, I also remember that last year when there were calls for SADC's involvement, that President Philip Nyusi was reportedly not keen on a SADC presence in northern Cabo Delgado province, but he was going around the world, including the EU, on behalf of the Mozambican government to ask for help. So we should not be surprised that Rwanda has gone to the EU and that the EU is considering support because Mozambique originally also wanted support from the EU.
Yes, that's true. Actually, we already have in Mozambique a EU mission for training for Cabo Delgado called EUTM Mozambique. So the EU is already in Mozambique since last November, training about 2,000 Mozambican troops to fight the insurgency in Cabo Delgado. So no surprise at all that Rwanda is going to get the funding from, asking funding from the EU. But also, we should not be surprised that tomorrow it is announced that the SADC as well is getting funding from the EU. If we know the global context is that the Western countries are that funding a lot of activity in Africa, including peacekeeping mission. So here is where the most important comes. We must first question, what is EU going to fund in Mozambique? Is going to fund peace enforcement, which is what is happening now, or is going to fund peacekeeping? There is a big difference between these two missions, because peace enforcement, it means war. It means conducting offensive operations. So this is not likely to happen. It's unlikely to happen that the EU is going to fund a peace enforcement mission. So what we can predict from here is that in the near months, in the future months, the mission in Mozambique is going to change to be a peacekeeping. So then when it's peacekeeping, it's okay that the EU, the UN, and other Western partner can fund it.
Yeah, it's going to be that, so EU is likely, therefore, to fund Rwanda's 2,000 troop presence there, because, as you say, they are already on the ground since last November, just a couple of months ago, funding the Mozambican army. The likelihood for SADC, is it there? Because currently, I know, at least I can speak for South Africa, President Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa going to Parliament or writing to Parliament saying that as well they were extending the presence of the South African component of the SADC mission of about 1,490 odd South African soldiers, one of whom we know was killed a few weeks ago during an attack by the militants in Cabo Delgado, at a cost of about 980 million rand. That's the cost he put. It's just under R1 billion. Do you think Mr. Ramaphosa would also be knocking on the EU's doors as SADC?
Yes, the simple answer is yes. SADC is going to knock the doors of the EU for funding, and that is likely going to happen as well. We must understand that what is happening here in the region is historic. We have never seen a region supporting a neighboring country with its own fund. So this is the very first time that we see it in Africa modern story, that the regional countries, the neighbors, are bringing their own funds to support their mission. So we have never seen it before anywhere in Africa. So we can expect that allow me to use this expression, that the EU or other partner like the US or other can come and rescue SADC, who is already doing a huge job in Mozambique. But also we must understand that the job that the SADC mission is doing in Mozambique is much bigger than the one done by Rwandese. Because first of all, SADC is present in more districts. And as I'm talking now, SADC is still conducting military operation in Mozambique. While in the area occupied or assigned to Rwanda, the situation did calm down a little bit. So, yeah, we can expect that SADC will knock the EU door, ask for funding, and if the funding arrives, that is not a surprise at all.
This conflict, you say the SADC mission, from what the reports you're getting there in Maputo from the north, the conflict is still going on. We were told that some of the militants had moved and get into the neighboring province of Nyasa, and there'd been attacks there a few weeks ago. But I guess this past week, I don't know if it's made the conflict worse or not, we've seen the tropical storm, the cyclone Ana, causing a lot of devastation all the way across Cabo Delgado to Nampula, to Nyasa, and all the way to Malawi. These, of course, will be factors on the ground. So for how long can this conflict be going, Borges?
Well, this is a long-term conflict. So what we can expect in the next, it will take years, maybe in low intensity. So we cannot expect to see that, okay, the fighting terrorism in Mozambique is over in the next 2 years. No, we must wait for a long conflict with low intensity. Maybe it can take a decade. Maybe can take a decade. But also, this is not a Mozambique problem only. Today, just a couple of hours ago, there was a meeting between President Nyusi and the Tanzanian president in Pemba, Cabo Delgado. They were discussing the situation in both countries. So this is a cross-border problem. And if in the near future we see another SADC country with the same problem, maybe Malawi, for an example, that is not surprising at all. So let's get prepared that this kind of conflict, when arrives, it takes time to leave. We can just recall the experience from other regions in the continent, from Sahel, from Nigeria. So this is not different here in the region.
Okay, finally, Borges, do you think the EU would have been so keen and willing and ready to help with this conflict in northern Mozambique if the company Energies Total did not have a huge project, the gas project off the coast of Cabo Delgado? Or let me ask it this way, it's because they've got commercial interest that a European country or European company has got interest in the region that the EU is willing to put in the money. Otherwise, they would not do it.
No, let me be fair with the EU. The EU has been always in Mozambique, funding development in Mozambique, for example, supporting state budget and funding education, health, as the EU, but also as a single state in bilateral cooperation between EU countries and Mozambique. So we believe that this is done in a global understanding that the rich country needs to support the poor one. So even without the Total, the EU will be present in Mozambique, supporting Mozambique. But again, saying that it doesn't mean the presence of Total is not important. It's very important, and it might contribute to the EU to do the job quickly. But this is not the sole reason. So I will say it's a combination of all the factors. The presence of Total, it's important to the EU, but also the EU has been in Mozambique, I believe in other African countries, supporting development.
So it's all around stability, as you say. Thank you very much. That's a journalist and researcher with the Institute for Security Studies. That's Borges Nhamirre zooming to us there from Maputo, just to get the latest insights about reports that the EU is ready and willing to fund Rwanda's military presence, deployment in northern Mozambique. Rwanda has got about 2,000 troops on the ground there, but there's also the SADC mission that is there. And South Africa is a part of that, and the speculation that SADC will also go knocking on the EU door and say, give us some money. It's very expensive. War is very expensive.